And a very interesting little scraps emerged. Queenstown Lakes, so I represent, just so that you know, I'm, as you know, an elected regional councillor. And I represent the Dunstan ward. And in the Dunstan ward, Josh, it's probably got about 60,000 people in it. And it has Queenstown, Arrowtown, Wanaka, Cromwell, Alexandra, Roxburgh, and sort of the Maniatoto, Ranfurly area, which is that sort of wonderful wasteland that you see in Lord of the Rings. So it's got all that in it. Now that area is gone like gangbusters in terms of not simply population growth, but also in terms of house prices as well. I think the average house price now in Queenstown is about $1.6 million. So you can see that in comparison to anywhere else, it's expensive. But even in central Otago, Cromwell, Queen Alexandra, and Clyde, all those points in between, the average price there now is $750,000, $800,000 as well. So it's extraordinarily expensive. But this has not stopped an enormous migration of international people, of New Zealanders moving into that particular area. Now, this has led the Mayor of Queenstown and others at a recent seminar to say that the future of Otago is inland, where the sun shines, where there are lakes, where there are rivers, where there are jobs, where there aren't students, ironically. Well, not at the moment. And that by 2039, the combined population of Queenstown Lakes lakes, Central Lakes, will be greater than Dunedin. And the suggestion was made at a employment and business seminar last week that very soon the Central Lakes region of Otago will be the preeminent urban area, and that Dunedin will just be a sad remnant dying in a ditch somewhere in the fog and in the cloud and in the low temperatures when they finally get a summer, and kept alive purely by transfusions of students. As you would imagine, this thought and commentary has not gone down so well in Dunedin, and joining us now is the Mayor of Dunedin, Jules Radich, to not simply defend his city, but also to explain to us why people might think like that. And he joins us now. Jules, lovely to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Yes, thank you for having me.
Jules, you're in I think you've come out of a local government seminar somewhere, have you?
Correct.
What's that all about?
Well, this is about discussions amongst local government members about how to, I suppose, communicate best with central government and how to cooperate with each other to take the country forward, and how to enable growth in our various regions, and how to best deliver what our constituents require in the first instance and desire in the second instance of us.
Does local government have a particular problem with central government at the moment, do they, in terms of communication?
No. Oh, okay. I think we have good channels of communication, but it's always. I mean, there's sometimes what different parties in any discussion want can be different, and so the name of the game is to get on the same page. So by having discussions on an ongoing basis, then we can determine, each party can determine what the other wants, and then work together to find the best possible solution.
Okay, and on that basis, does that? Well, I'm always interested to see, because every mayor that's there, including Dunedin's mayor, obviously in your case, is going to have a particular view about how that communication might work and how that assistance might work from central government to local government, depending upon their particular circumstances. Are there any particular issues that you think should be addressed by the government in Dunedin?
Well, if you're looking, Dunedin specifically, no. The number one issue that we had has been addressed and resolved, so that was great.
That was a hospital.
We had very effective, yes, correct. So we had very effective communication with central government on that. We presented our case very respectfully and I think appropriately, and they received it. respectfully and appropriately, and we had free and frank discussions. And the case was not personalised. The case was, able to be discussed in a, I suppose, what would you call it, a rational manner, and looking at the data too.
Okay. Just on that though, the issue. All right. Now, as you know, you've been involved in something of a tit for tat with the Mayor of Queenstown and various Queenstown luminaries about. And the quip was made was Dunedin's the past and Queenstown Lakes essentially is the future of Otago, and the suggestion by 2039, I think it is, that the population of Dunedin will be superseded by that in the internal hinterland, if you like, of the Central Lakes region. Do you accept that thesis, Jules?
I think it remains to be seen. And it depends on how the population is calculated, because you've got about 130,000 in Dunedin right now and about 45,000 in Queenstown right now. So that's a huge leap of increase. But of course, he's not talking just Queenstown. You've got
Cromwell and Alex.
Cromwell and the other smaller communities there as well. So it's not as though you're going to have a metropolis of 150,000.
Nevertheless, you are going to have 150,000 who might actually still need, say, a common hospital or health services or things like that.
Oh, yes, but there's only scope for one tertiary hospital in the lower half of the South Island, just as there's only scope for one tertiary hospital in the upper half of the South Island, which is Christchurch, and also the upper third or so of the North Island, which is in Auckland. And so, other centres may have they may want to have a tertiary hospital, but there's only scope to have one where all the specialist services are gathered. You can't have multiple ones. And, just as we can't have one heart surgeon in Wanaka, one in Invercargill, one in Oamaru, one in Dunedin. They all need to be together in one place. So you've got, cooperation, collegiality, and be able to have, they're able to confer with each other and they're able to get a break.
No, I understand that. But what I think he was saying, it was interesting to me that neither the mayors of Central Otago nor Queenstown Lakes supported the activist crusade that you were running to do with the establishment. That's not quite
accurate, actually, Michael. No, that's not quite accurate because the new mayor, the current mayor of Central Otago did support.
But not the one that was going out. In fact, he was the one that was saying.
That's right.
No, that's right. Yeah.
That's correct. That is correct.
Yeah. Listen, but going back to this, Dunedin does get a bad rap. And every time, unfortunately, it's just the way the news works these days. You've got to do something bad to get in the news, and there's very little local news.
It depends who the rapper is. I think it depends who the rapper is. There's plenty of locals, there's plenty of Dunedin, there's plenty of friends of Dunedin that give it a good rap and provide a positive story. But if you've got bad rappers, then they want to give it a bad rap. That's their prerogative.
Okay, but Dunedin. I was just reading a bit of history actually, because I'm a bit of a history buff. But I was reading once where Dunedin was the most populous city in New Zealand in the 19th century. Obviously, when gold was discovered, and when all those wonderful buildings and investments were being made. Now I think it's the 7th largest urban area in New Zealand. What's the reason? And yet the university's still there, and despite its declining international reputation, it's still, got 22,000 students in it, which is about 4 times the number they had when I was there. What's the reason why Dunedin hasn't progressed as much as other centres in New Zealand, do you think, Jules?
Well, I think there was a move to Christchurch, for instance, when housing got extremely expensive in Dunedin, and it was cheaper to buy a new house in Christchurch than a second-hand one in Dunedin.
That's still probably the case now.
It could well be. I haven't seen any recent figures. But also we lost a lot of people to Australia when we lost some significant industries. And so, one of the things that, has happened with being a smaller centre and further from the greater seats of population. I mean, you've got Christchurch being the major city in the South Island, and you've got Auckland being the major city in the North Island. The population centres attract more and more people. So, Auckland is still experiencing huge growth. So people, just, clump together at those bigger cities. But however, Dunedin has held its own, and the university, I don't agree that it's declining. I mean, obviously Auckland's got all that growth and has now, higher in the rankings perhaps than Dunedin. It depends on which rankings, though.
All
and
the rankings.
Some of the rankings show Dunedin.
Jules, there's no ranking in which
anyway.
Auckland is subsidiary to Otago of the
Right.
three major university
we're
rankings.
second, so we were still doing pretty good for the, if you say the seventh largest centre and having the second ranking university.
Yes, but then, listen, it doesn't matter. I mean, Dunedin's problem's not necessarily unique, or Otago's problem's not unique to it all. All 7 New Zealand universities have had declining rankings in the last decade. That's I think, a slightly bigger issue. No. What I'm trying to talk about is that this argument of Glenlua's that Dunedin has a past and Queenstown has the future. Do you accept that?
Well, I certainly agree that Dunedin has an illustrious past, yes. And I do agree that Queenstown Queenstown has a bright present and a bright future, but they have got issues to solve. But I also, I disagree with, if that is the basis for the argument, that I disagree that Dunedin does not have a bright future. So double negative there. I believe Dunedin does have a wonderful future ahead of it. And as I did mention briefly the other day, I think that's based on a simple strategy of retain the brains. So, our position as an eminent education centre for New Zealand, and in fact the wider Pacific Rim. Last week I welcomed international students to Dunedin, and there were hundreds of them in the room, and they were just some of the first years that could make it on the day. We are educating people from all around the world. So the name of the game for us is to create more and more high-tech, brain-powered industries in Dunedin and have an economic development strategy based on that, because the one thing we do have a plentiful supply of is trained brains. And so the more of those we can retain in the city, the better off we'll be into the future.